everyone. A very warm welcome to another insightful episode of Psychology Talks. This podcast where we delve into the depths of human psychology and well-being. I'm your host, Amreen Nadeem, and today we have a very thought-provoking topic that bridges the gap between human and the physical self and the mental self, the connection between mind and body. And we are so excited to explore how our mental and physical being intricately intertwined with each other. We often hear this phrase, mind body connection, but what does it mean in true sense? How do our thoughts, emotions, our and psychological state influences our overall state of physical well-being? And that's why my guest today is Udo Erasmus. His life journey is very inspiring, and I've been following him on Instagram, and the more I listen to him, the more I get inspired each day, and that's why I invited him to speak about this special topic. I'll just give a little bit of brief introduction about his life because his journey itself is very inspiring. Udo's life began with intense struggle. As an adult, he got pesticide poisoning in 1980s, leaving doctors at a loss regarding treatment. Deciding to take his health into his own hands, Udo began researching, and his discoveries led him to passion for finding answer to life's big question, which would hopefully one day bring him and world peace. Today, Udo is an acclaimed speaker and author of many books, including the best-selling Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, which sold almost 250,000 copies. He also teaches at events hosted by Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra, and has given a lot of keynote speeches. His story is testament to incredible potential within us all. From the ashes of his struggles emerged a man driven by an unquenchable thirst of wisdom. And currently, Udo is also a co-founder of Udo's Choice. So let's welcome Udo Erasmus. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. As I gave a little bit of introduction about you, and then I told the audience that the more I listen from you on your Insta profile, the more I get inspired. And just within the 2 to 3 minutes conversation prior to our session, got me really excited to talk a lot about this important topic. So I gave a little bit of introduction to our audience, but tell us in detail about that, how your life changed or how you found that purpose that you have been sharing with the other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, my life started in the Second World War. I was a war baby. I was born in Poland during the Second World War. And I was a refugee kid when I was 2.5 years old. We were fleeing on dirt roads in horse-drawn hay wagons, mostly mothers with young children. And the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And there was no military presence on those roads. And the Allies, we think of them as the good guys. I mean, where I live, we think of them as the good guys. Well, they were using us refugees as target practice, shooting at us from planes. And so it was pretty intense. I don't remember a lot of it. There were dead horses and dead people in the ditches. And my mother eventually said it was winter. So she said it was safer to go through the fields than to stay on the roads, because they weren't shooting at the fields. They were just shooting at the roads. And so she took 2 of the 6 children she had with her. She had to leave 4 of them behind. Imagine a mother having to make that decision to leave some of her own kids behind. And I was left behind. I ended up in an orphanage. It's a long story. It was like crazy, crazy, crazy time. And eventually her sister heard what happened, and she came and she found us And then we were reunited with the camera. And I guess for a 2-year-old, that probably would have been a pretty intense experience. I grew up very shy. I was always like this, just like, and I loved books because books are safe. And for me, safety was a really big thing. And then we were in Germany after the war, and I listened to adults argue about really trivial things. And it always made me uneasy because they were so intense when they were arguing. And it occurred to me one day when I heard one of these arguments that, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this little cocky voice saying, I'm going to find out how. Now I was 6 years old. I didn't know how complicated everything is, but I was going to find out how people can live in harmony. And that's basically been my driver. And I went into science to figure out how things work, because that gives you predictability. So that gives you a certain amount of security. And then I got into biological sciences, how creatures work, psychology, how thinking works, medicine, how health works, but medicine's only about disease. So I left medicine after 1 year and went back into biochemistry and genetics, because I realized I learned more about health in biology, where you study normal creatures functioning normally in normal situations, than in medicine, where the focus is always on disease. And so that's kind of like a bit of the story. I left university because I was still trying to figure it out, and there was still something missing, and so I went on a more of a spiritual search, and very powerful experiences. And then I got poisoned by pesticides. That's another long story. And when I got poisoned, I went to a doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" She said, "Nothing." So I realized that I was on my own. No one was going to help me, but I had the background in biochemistry. And so I went and looked in the research about nutrition and health, nutrition and disease, because the body is made out of food. So what kind of food you eat makes a difference to what kind of a body you build. And so out of that then came information about oils and the damage done to oils. And then I thought we should make oils with health in mind. And I developed a method for making oils with health in mind. And then I started working with digestion, enzymes, and probiotics. And then I branched out and said, what else affects health? Everything affects health. And so it's like, okay, now I'm working on total health, which is a big topic, and human nature, because we've been on this planet for a very long time, and we've never actually created a teachable field of human nature where we can look at what we are and live in line with our nature, because that's where all our happiness and our peace come from. We have to be living aligned with nature and in line with our nature. So that's a very short version of my story.
I understand. I mean, your life your journey is very, very inspiring. And every event, I think, or every time you had to struggle for the survival, right? I mean, especially it's from the very young age, at 2 years. I mean, we can't even imagine a child is actually is trying to find life or find a way to survive. But I think every event is meant to happen to make you the way you are. So, and that's your strength, and I think that is the main reason it's there, that you need to spread your voice to help people. So, and that's what exactly you're doing.
Yeah, what happened? I didn't feel very supported on the outside, because we lost our farm, and we lost our house, we lost our culture, we lost our property, we lost everything, right? Except we still had life. And I didn't feel very supported, because you don't raise children in a war zone. So I didn't feel very supported on the outside. Well, if a child doesn't feel supported on the outside, there's got to be only one of two things happens. Either they die, or they find support on the inside. And I found support on the inside. What does that mean? Well, you know what? through all the dramas and all the traumas that we go through, something took perfect care of us through
Yes.
everything. It's
Yeah.
called life. We call it life.
Yeah.
And life took perfect care of me through all of that stuff. But I didn't realize that until I was about 26 years old. One day it occurred to me, oh my God, I'm still complaining about the war. The war ended when I was 3, right? I'm still complaining about the war. And the whole time that I'm complaining and that I went through all of that, something took perfect care of me. And I've never given that any acknowledgement. And maybe I should get to know it a little better. It's been a very good friend. Maybe I should get to know it a little bit, and maybe I should make friends with it. And maybe I should be grateful for the fact that it's something has taken such good care of me.
Yeah, I want to ask that, especially when people go through such traumas, they either get bitter, or they start either harming others or they harming themselves, right? As you mentioned that you were shy, it's a natural outcome, when people don't find more support from outside, they go inside. But what happens is they either start harming themselves, and eventually that is how they harming others as well. So how did you find that, how to overcome that trauma and be more, I would say, take care of your mental health and be more self-aware and self-actualized?
Right. Well, I guess when you spend a lot of time alone, like I did, books or alone in safe places, and then you're quiet, then you begin to discover that no matter what your dramas and traumas are, there is still something in you that was not affected by the dramas and the traumas. There is a piece inside of you that is your foundation. That's a part of your nature. There is an unconditional love within you that is taking care of you. That's called life. That's part of your nature. And so whether you harm yourself and harm others, or you become wise, I guess you could say, depends on where you put your focus. Because even when you're harming yourself, because your mind is upset and you're angry or whatever it is, even when you're harming yourself, there's something inside of you that is taking perfect care of you. And if you brought your awareness to that, which is taking perfect care of you, then you wouldn't want to harm yourself, and you wouldn't want to harm other people. Then you would feel so loved by life. That, my experience of that, and it's because I take time every day to sit still and to see how still I can become, and to see how deep I can go into that stillness, and to see how long I can stay there. Well, I feel so loved and so cared for that then I come out and I say, well, let's see. It's not about me getting $1 million or getting this or getting that to try and get taken care of. I'm completely taken care of. I am so cared for that it's not about me anymore. Right? Because if I don't feel cared for, I know where to go. And if I feel cared for, then what is there left to do other than to say, okay, where can I help make life better for as many people as possible, in as many ways as possible, and in as broadly as possible?
Yeah. So what I actually got from your message is basically, it's what I also heard a lot from people and what I've read. It's actually we need to quiet our mental chatter. And that's when we actually hear our inner voice. And, there is a difference between feeling lonely or spending a time with yourself. We call it solitude, So like a lot of people get depressed when they feel that they are alone or they try to be with someone. So that is one thing. But the main thing is that when you need to connect with yourself and listen to your inner voice, that's when, because like most of the time when we are in the state of consciousness where our mind is operating with a lot of thoughts, as there are lots of studies suggesting that our mind creates like more than 50,000 thoughts per day. and these thoughts are just creating because of the random neural connection or synaptic responses. And if we just start listening to all these thoughts, we go crazy. And that's what's happening these days, because people are trying to, and as I come back to, like, you said that we need to focus.
Yeah.
So 2-3 things which I actually got from your this discussion, that we need to connect with yourself, lower our these quiet or mental chatter, and then listen to the inner voice. Focus what exactly our soul or our inner voice is telling us, and that can guide us. Now my coming to the next question. So how it is linked with our physical health?
Okay.
We tell a lot about mental health. So how it is linked with physical?
Okay. Let me go back for a second. When somebody is lonely, and usually it's because we don't feel good about ourselves, so we want company. But we don't only want company; we want the company to make us feel better. So that means we're going out to somebody, and we want them to do our homework for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. That's why relationships don't work so often, right?
Yeah.
Because we need to do the homework, which is to be present in our own space. And when we're present in that space, we can be alone, but not lonely, because there's nothing missing. We were made whole. There's nothing missing. And then we can have a relationship that's playful and that's fun, and that we can do something together that we decide we want to do together. But I'm not expecting you to fulfill me, and you're not expecting me to fulfill you, because we have to do that ourselves first.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now let me go back to link between mind and body.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to describe it is what you think affects your body, and what you eat affects your mind. Okay. You wanted a simple definition? That's the simple definition. So in other words, for instance, niacin is a B vitamin that is essential, that you can't make, but you have to get it from food. When you become deficient in niacin, then you get pellagra. And pellagra used to killed 100,000 people in North America in the 1920s, because there wasn't enough vitamin B3 in the diet. And before they died, they got diarrhea and they got dementia, which means they had hallucinations, and they literally went crazy. So that's an example of the body affecting the mind, the food that the body is made of affecting the mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Another example is, if I said to myself, my parents spanked me, right? And they said, you're a bad boy, because I was always getting into things and trying things out and, doing little experiments, and I wasn't supposed to do that. And so then they spanked me, right? And then it was like, you're a bad boy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a different example. We worked on a farm, and we had a lot of tools. And I was a kid. I was just learning. I had an older brother who was better at tools than I was. And my father used to say to me, you have 2 left hands and thumbs for fingers.
Yeah.
So in other words, you can't do anything building. So I could never even cut a board straight. And then after I left home, my father and I had a very intense relationship, let's put it that way, right? And then I left home and I began to do my quiet practice. And one day I looked at my hand, I said, there's nothing wrong with this hand. This hand can do anything a hand can do. And when I realized that, all of a sudden I could cut a board straight.
Yeah.
So because I said I can't cut a board straight because I believed my dad, then I would always cut the board crooked.
Yeah.
And the moment that I changed my mind about it, I could cut it straight. That's how the mind affects the body.
Yeah.
Right? What you think, you will turn into action. if you don't like your life, you're not going to eat properly.
Hmm.
If you're depressed, you're not going to do what you need to do to be healthy and to have a good life. So the two are so connected.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. You can think yourself sick and you can think yourself healthy. You can eat
Yeah.
yourself sick and you can eat yourself healthy.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, I think here I would just like to. It always fascinates, the placebo effect. It always fascinates me because
Hmm.
like you take any medicine or you take any food, but
Yeah,
you think that if it's working for your body, it will work. And I have seen number of people who have like defied all these biology and physics, and
yeah,
they came out of like where doctors have given them last chance, and they said that they're not going to survive, and they did just
yeah,
because of their mind. And
yeah,
it's not like whatever the medicines they eat, it's just because the mind has the power to heal body. And what I
yeah,
believe is, as I was telling you before, that we are energy. And for me, I believe that thoughts are the energy as well, which creates the change internally and externally as well. So
hmm,
whatever we think, as you said, that whatever we think, we become. If we think we are sick,
yeah,
yes, our cells will
yeah,
just start deteriorating itself, and it will demolish itself. But if we think that we are healthy, we'll definitely uh, feel more healthy. And no matter
yeah,
what doctors say or whatever the physics say or whatever the biology say, we're gonna come out as healthy because of our mind.
right.
Here comes
Well,
my another question also.
yeah.
Sorry.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, because as you said that these medicines create all these hallucinations and everything. So uh, I always used to wonder, and in fact you said that there are lots of people who can eat healthy and then become healthy or something like. But there is a lot of confusion to me. I mean, I usually have a big like debate or argument with my husband, because he is always saying that we need to eat organic and this and whatever it is, and he said that we need to eat this particular thing, it can affect our body in this way. But my question is that we know certain part, or the research today says something, but we never know that what comes the next. And then the same research again, we say, oh my god, this was not working that way. So
yeah,
whatever you're eating, and we can see like the previously when people used to think fat is bad and it's making us more gaining weight or something, and now the people are saying no, fat is good, and we were not doing all wrong. So I don't know what to follow.
okay,
Do we
yeah.
eat? So, what's your take on this?
Well, let me go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
When we can think ourselves healthy, we can think ourselves sick. You know why? It's
Yeah.
because life itself is perfect health.
Mhm.
Life itself, the
Yeah.
energy that flows through us, that
Yes.
runs the everything in the body, that
Yes.
energy is perfect health. So if
Absolutely.
we can get our thinking out of the way of that energy and let that energy flow,
Hmm.
then it's gonna be pretty good at making us a healthy body. But if we're interfering, saying, "Oh, I'm worried, and I got this problem," and then we're actually using our mind to interfere with our life,
Yes.
and then the flow of life isn't as good, because then we get tension in different parts of the body, and then the flow of life is not, because we need to be relaxed about it, right? And then we actually tell life to make us sick by how
Yeah.
we think,
Yeah.
right? So we need to get out of the way of that, so that life can just flow.
Yeah.
And then in terms of what to eat and what we should be eating, you know we are part of nature.
Hmm.
There's no way around it. We came out of nature, and life created health in nature. So in
Yeah.
order to be healthy, we need to live in line with nature and our nature.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so in nature, when you look at how other creatures eat. Every one of them, except for human beings, they eat fresh, whole, raw,
Yeah.
organic.
Yes.
And for human beings, probably mostly plant-based.
Yeah.
There were places where it wasn't like that. But basically, because there was a time when human beings only had rocks to hunt with, before we had guns and weapons and all that stuff, right? Before we had agriculture. So we had rocks to hunt with. And when the hunters only had rocks to hunt with, they came home without meat almost all the time, because the animals run away or they fight.
Yeah.
And then when they had no meat, then they ate plants, because the plants don't run away and they don't fight, so they're pretty easy to hunt down and kill. So human beings were, we say we were hunter-gatherers. Actually, human beings most of the time were gatherer-hunters. They gathered plants because you could depend on that. You couldn't depend on the hunters.
Yeah. I completely understand your point that nature, and it's like, we have to be in line with the nature. But again, my question is, like, I'm just going through some of the researches, especially on the evolutionary studies, where they said that humans develop intelligence when they started eating differently from the animals. That's what the point. I mean, that's what I at least that's my research said. You can it might not be right. So as per my study or my research, they said that, for example, when they started cooking or when they started eating in a different way from the wild animals, that's the point when they started developing intelligence, and that's when they started. So it's not correct?
No, because in order to invent cooking, you already have to be intelligent. So the intelligence became first. Something happened in human development, genetically. There's a story that something in chromosome 2, there was a big dislocation between chromosome 2 and chromosome 7. And we don't know what created that, but it changed. We became capable of communication the way we're communicating right now. The animals can't do that. They don't have that kind of, they have lots of other things. So that the and by the way, animals are intelligent too.
Absolutely.
They're very,
especially
they're very intelligent. They're even creative in their behavior for survival. So it's not, intelligence was not invented by human beings, and human beings are not the only creatures that are intelligent. So you have to take all of that with a grain of sand. I wasn't there 200,000 years ago. I wasn't there 6 million years ago when the change happened between monkeys, which are 99% the same as us.
True.
And what is it that exactly happened? We got a bigger brain. We got more. We became able to symbolize and fantasize more. And that is a gift as well as a curse. Because on the one hand, we can invent things. On the other hand, all the things we invent have side effects, have negative effects on nature, and we can also think ourselves crazy. So the intelligence, the mind that we develop more than any other creature is as much of a gift as it is of a curse. No animal makes war like we do. No animals beat each other up like we do. No animals talk behind each other's backs and create plots to hurt each other like we do.
True.
Right? So you have to take this great mind and great intelligence. You have to take that with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. So why do you think that? What is the main reason that why people get into all these negative things, and what makes them do that, and how we can overcome that? I know one way is to spread love, but it's not easy when there is so much negativity around us. So I know we need to be positive. We need to spread love and kindness, but how to do that?
Okay, so the mind is 50% for you and 50% against you. That's its nature. Your heart is 100% for you.
Yeah.
When you were in your mother's womb, and this is true for every human being,
Yeah.
in your mother's womb, there was no place to go. There was nothing to do. Everything was taken care of, and it was pretty safe. So at that time, where was your focus? Well, it couldn't go out. You didn't have a religion. You didn't have a culture. You didn't know anything about race. You didn't even know you had a mother, right? Because all of that was, so where was your focus? Well, your focus was at rest inside, in its source, in life, and in awareness. And you could say that you started your life in deep meditation. Right? In deep meditation, or you could say deep prayer or deep contemplation, or in stillness or in peace. And you literally were just in there floating in a little tank. I call it the Buddha tank sometimes. Right? It's just, could have been, you could have called it any, but it's so you were like in peace, in love, that whole time inside. And so you were present inside, but you weren't present outside in your focus. And then you were born, and then everything changed. And now you had to get to know the world because everything wasn't taken care of anymore. You had to cry for your breast milk, and you had to cry for your diaper change, and you had to cry if you were uncomfortable. And then your mom had to guess what you needed, right? And then pretty soon you had to learn how to talk so you could say what you needed. And you had to get to know the world. And so you had to learn to communicate with people. And in that process, your awareness, your focus of awareness went from being present inside, absent outside. It went to being present outside, absent inside. Well, inside is where the love is. And inside is where the positiveness is. And inside is where the peace is. And because our focus wandered away from the love and peace that are the core of our being, we ended up out there in the world that has positive and negative. And that's where our negativity comes from, is from disconnecting from what is 100% positive inside of your own, inside the space that your body occupies. In that's where you find your God, and that's where you find your peace, and that's where you find your love, and that's where your inspiration comes from. And when you can, and so as adults, at some point, oh, by the way, when that shift happened from present inside to present outside, when we disconnected from inside, heartache began. Heartache began.
Absolutely.
That pain that you feel in your chest when something goes wrong or you lose something that you love, that's where heartache began. Heartache is the heart calling us to come back home, even though it's triggered by lots of things on the outside. The trigger is not the cause of heartache. Heartache is our disconnection from ourselves that began when we were born. And so it's calling us back. And if we want to find our positivity, then as adults, we have to sit with heartache, not run away from it, not blame it on somebody, but sit with it. Because that far behind the heartache, like less than a hair's breadth behind the heartache, is your wholeness. That's where your love is. That's where your positivity is. So as human beings, but we have to do that deliberately, because change will always draw your focus outward through your senses for survival. Because you have to figure out really quick, is this friend, is this foe, or is this irrelevant, right? So senses will always take you out, but only heartache calls you back. And so you have to sit with heartache, and you have to deliberately sit with heartache because it's uncomfortable. And, people like to distract themselves from it. So you have to sit with it quietly, not judge it, just feel it, and allow your awareness to go behind it and go and reconnect with what is positive in you.
Absolutely. I just loved it.
And there's no other way to do it. And human beings are the only creatures that, like a tree never goes away from itself. It's just there. It's just there, right? An animal an animal will go out into the environment and then it'll go back to itself. And
Yeah.
human beings, because of this gift curse called the mind, we go
Yeah.
out, but we don't go back here. We go in
Yeah.
here, and then we
Yeah.
live in memories and fantasies. And
Absolutely.
only human beings need to sit down and do this stillness practice, because only human beings don't automatically go back into the space their body occupies. All animals do. So in a way, we think of ourselves as the best of creation.
Yeah, but
in a way, we're the worst.
that's very true. Very
Right?
true. I think that's when the farther we go, the bitter we feel. Actually, that's the pain we'll feel more, and that is reflected in lots of things. People start feeling more depressed, stressed,
Yeah.
or many other mental disorder, in the form of mental disorder. They feel
Yeah.
anxiety. They may be suffering because they are not listening to the inner calling, and they are moving farther and farther. And what I often say is that go ahead.
There is no mental illness in the unconditional love that is your life.
Absolutely.
And there is no mental illness in the all-encompassing peace that is your foundation. So
Absolutely.
when you're mentally ill, that's still completely healthy. So you only have to shift the focus there. And of course, that takes practice.
Yes.
And you have to know that you can actually do that, because most people never heard a story like we're telling here.
And mostly they don't believe because of their mind. Again, they keep asking questions based on those mental chatter, which they need to actually calm down or quieten.
Right.
So that's one thing.
And we don't know that heartache is the greatest gift we've been given, other than being alive, because it's like thirst that makes you drink water and hunger that makes you eat food. Well, the heartache calls you home. Right. And it's only when you come home to what is positive within you that you step out of the negativity. Your mind will always be half positive, half negative. That's its job. That's its job, right?
Absolutely.
But if you're stuck in your mind and you don't know how to go to a better place, that's when you start having the problem.
That's true. Right. That's true. And that, like, our heart is calling for the oneness, I would just say. And that oneness we are yearning for, the oneness with the nature, with the universe, or with the God, whatever you say.
All of it.
That's what exactly we're just longing for the entire life. So I just loved it.
And people try to get it from money, but it's not there. And people try to get it from marriage, and it's not there. People try to get it from kids, and it's not there. People try to get it from power, and it's not there. Absolutely. Right? So all the things we do, out there is not going to give us what we already have in here. We just have to go home. We have to come home to ourselves to experience that what we're looking for out there, we've always had already.
Absolutely. We just need to remember that, because as you mentioned, that when we come into this world, we already have everything. We just need to remember that we have everything. And then we just need to be, or I would say, first of all, embrace ourselves, that yes, we are what we can do, and then listen to our inner calling. I just loved it. I mean, literally, it's amazing. I can go on and on and on, but the time is running out. So I would just ask you that what would be the final note or the parting message would you like to give to our audience today?
Well, I guess the message is you are much more than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah.
And the most incredible thing that is possible for you, you already have. You just need to turn your awareness inside, into the space your body occupies, because there you will find unconditional love, all-encompassing peace, and inspired purpose. They're already there. They're already there. You're already full of it. You're already full of it, right?
Yeah.
But you have to look to where it is. It's like if I have $1 million in my right pocket, but I only got dust in my left pocket, and then I go in my left pocket and I say, oh, I'm really poor. Oh, I'm really poor. I have no money.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
refuse to look in my right pocket where the $1 million is. Right?
Yeah. That's true.
That's stupid. And that's what
That's
we're
true.
doing, because we are so rich inside
Absolutely.
in feeling,
Yeah.
and we only look outside.
That's very true. I love this example of, because we actually not looking at the right direction where we need to
Exactly.
focus upon. And
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's true.
The most incredible thing, life that you could have, you already have.
Yeah, that's true. And just
Go
tell our
to
audience.
where it is in the
Yeah,
space your body occupies.
absolutely. So tell our audience that how they can reach out to you if they need any help, or especially they need your oils or about your
Yeah.
products. So what is the best way to
Yeah.
reach out to you?
I have a website that's Udo's Choice, UDOS choice.com.
Okay.
And on that, we talk about oils and making oils with health in mind and essential fatty acids. And then I work with digestive enzymes and probiotics, because digestion is the second most neglected area of nutrition. Oils is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another website called The Udo, THEUDO. And that's in progress. That's where I talk more about this, what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. And then I'm on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel, Udo Erasmus. I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. So I'm not hard to find. If you just punch in and Google UDO, it's my first name.
Yeah,
you'll find me on the first page. There are not very many people called Udo on the planet.
Yeah. I will share all the links. I think I have already shared about your Insta and your website already in the comments, but I'll also share about your Facebook and your other websites, so people who really need your help can reach out to you easily. So thank you so much for this lovely discussion, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I was actually looking forward to it the moment you actually agreed to coming on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we can do more if you want.
Absolutely. I would love to. Yeah. Maybe we can have another session about, like, you talk a lot about the oils and the physical health, because I think actually I wanted to talk about the physical aspect, but actually I was so much interested to talk about the mind and the spirituality. So I'll definitely,
let's do it. Let's do one on oils.
Yeah. Sure. Definitely we'll do that. So thank you. Thanks to the all audience who joined us today in live, and those who are actually even watching this as a recorded. So thank you so much, and take care, and have a great day.
Thank you.